Well, thank you, Annie, and thanks to all of you listening in today. Good afternoon. I'm John Dick, the CEO of Civic Science based in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania here in the United States. Very excited today to have the opportunity to talk about some new innovations in software, crowdsourcing, and data mining that are solving some of the most nagging problems we're all facing in attitudinal research. We all know the consumer research paradigm is changing rapidly and dramatically. It's certainly true among the youngest generational cohorts, but I also love to tell the story of my 70-year-old father. Just 3 years ago, my dad kept in touch with maybe a half dozen of his childhood or college friends, called them once every month or so on the phone, and I'll bet in a period of 30 years, I never saw my father purchase a new product in his house or his kitchen or his bathroom, pretty much the same toothpaste, the same shampoo. And you could ask my dad an opinion about something one day and bet your life that it wouldn't change for years, if ever. But today, my dad's on Facebook. He's talking to dozens of his friends, his old friends, every day. And all of a sudden, I start seeing new products in his kitchen, new soft drinks in his house. He's watching new television shows, listening to new music. Not only have his horizons broadened extensively, but they're virtually unpredictable from 1 week to the next. But how are we supposed to follow my dad's opinions when no one can afford to survey him, every day or even every week? And what about everyone who isn't retired like my father with lots of free time on his hands? In the past year, Civic Science has cataloged and studied over 50 million poll responses we've collected online from over 2.5 million unique and profiled respondents. And we've learned some really interesting things about how to engage today's consumer. The first kind of cardinal rule to us in surveying today's consumer is to go to them. Don't make them come to you. Make it as convenient as possible for people to share their opinions with you. Today's consumer has an extremely well-defined digital footprint. They read the same newspapers, they visit the same social networks, they join the same communities. Anything that you do that tries to lure them away from those normal travels will begin to create a bias in who you're able to engage. Secondly, keep the engagements as brief as possible. This is pretty much common sense. One of our scientists here likes to say that every time you add a question to a survey, you increase the level of bias in the people who will complete it. Naturally, if we can believe in the phenomena of respondent fatigue, it's hard to argue with that empirically. And with 50 million observations now under our belt, we've found some proven best practices to mitigate, if not eliminate, lots of survey fatigue. Third, make it relevant. Make the questions relevant and valuable to the respondent. They'll know if they're not. Ask people about the things they care most about. This is really easy, for example, when you're posing questions over a content website like we do most of our research. If the respondent is being engaged on a health and fitness site, ask them about nutrition. If they're on the Miami Herald newspaper, ask them about Florida current events. You'll see a marked increase in participation when you keep the questions relevant and valuable to the respondent. Fourth, and most importantly from our perspective, is use technology. Technology's made it possible to connect response data over multiple sessions, multiple websites, across digital platforms. We have things like cookies and Facebook Connect IDs, other reliable user credentials that when combined enable you to follow a respondent longitudinally across a lot of different days, experiences, websites, platforms. And what will all this mean for researchers? What are we learning from all this data we've been studying? Well, first and foremost, doing research this way allows you to build extensive longitudinal respondent data over time. If you listen to the numbers I've thrown out, if you look at the fact that we've collected 50 million responses from 2.5 million respondents, that works out to an average of about 25 respondents per user, or responses per respondent in the course of the last year, and also keeping in mind that we've never asked anyone more than 2 or 3 questions at a time. We have lots of people in our database who've answered hundreds of questions over the course of the last year, people we've seen over multiple websites and multiple environments. What that allows us to do is to begin delivering in a fully automated fashion very highly targeted and even personalized questions to respondents when they show up on the various websites and mobile applications that we've worked with. This makes sure that we adhere to the relevancy principle that I mentioned earlier. What this then enables us to do is produce millions of responses on a weekly or even a daily basis. This is the kind of classic crowdsourcing paradigm. By engaging lots and lots of people in far shorter sessions, we're still able to see what amounts to full survey completes over the course of a day and week. This ultimately then allows researchers to gain access to the hardest to reach consumers, people who otherwise wouldn't complete a full 20-minute or 30-minute interview, particularly younger consumers, busy professionals. And by tracking data this way, we're able to ask hundreds and thousands of questions to these millions of consumers, and this enables us to produce data about the health of brands, the popularity of products, trends related to current events and lifestyle, and to do it on a daily basis, and to be able to track things both perpetually and longitudinally. What this ultimately means is that market researchers, brand managers, advertisers, investment researchers are able to get immediate feedback from consumers in a scientific manner about the issues that they care most about. And this gives advertisers the opportunity to gauge the effectiveness of a campaign in days instead of having to wait weeks and sometimes months for sales figures to determine the success of their campaign. It allows investment researchers to understand the movement of stocks in advance of earnings calls and other sort of behavioral indicators that people use. So I look forward to some questions. I wanted to just highlight a lot of what we've learned about from studying this 50 million plus poll response database that we've been able to build. We've learned some things that certainly aren't necessarily rocket science, but good old common sense that we've been able to validate, and I look forward to everyone's questions. Thank you.